Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and if everything goes to plan, by the end of this episode, we will have plates and have a registered Alfarrari. Alright guys, so before we get into it today, I just want to take a second out to thank this week's sponsor, which is 70mi and their industry-leading A510 dash cam.
So this is a great all-rounder dash cam that gives stunning image quality during the day or at night.
Front or rear with the fitting of the rear camera with its 1944p HDR image quality from the Sony Starvis 2 sensor. So these have Bluetooth fast pairing and ADAS for driver safety. You also have the option of fitting the UP4 or the UP5 installation kit, which gives you 4G connectivity. With a SIM card installed, you can actually pair to your car at any time and get instant alerts if anything's happening when your car is left alone. So mounting the dash cam could not be easy. You start with your electrostatic sticker, mount it up where you want to place it on the windscreen, then just peel off the backing and stick it on, but leaving enough room so that you can unclip from the mounting plate later. Make sure you insert a micro SD card. Now, as far as wiring it in, you've got a couple of options. It comes with a nice long USB cable and a cigarette lighter USB adapter. But in this case, I am going to use the optional hard wiring kit, and let's install that now.
So I tuck the wires with the handy trim tool provided. Opening up my fuse box, the wires are clearly labelled, and I wrap them around the outgoing leg of an existing fuse, constant power and switch power, and then just ground to the chassis. I just close it all back up, plug it in, and clip it back onto the mount. It also has a parking mode that records suspicious activity when parked.
Now these have a built-in GPS and real-time route tracking, so when you make a recording, it will show on your screen where you are, where the incident was, what the time is. It's a very handy thing to keep you covered. So 70mi are actually running some huge Black Friday sales with up to 21% off of their whole range of products, and if you use my code, which the link is in the description, you can get an extra 5% off of that. Again, it's a really good deal, and it's definitely good to go and help out the guys that help out the channel. So go and check out 70mi. As I said, link in the description, and let's get back to the build. All right, guys, welcome back, and for those who are joining me, you will probably recognize this as the Alfarrari. This is my 1973 Alfa Romeo GTV that was originally a 4-cylinder 2-litre, and it's now a 3.6-litre V8 from a Ferrari 360. If you missed the last episode where I worked on it, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up. And like always, do the things, like and subscribe and comment. It all helps out that crazy algorithm. So during the week, or last week, I actually took the car down and got its blue slip. So I already have the engineering papers now, and the blue slip is a New South Wales thing. So basically, a select number of mechanics can actually do a blue slip, which is to basically take an unregistered car and register for the road, and they go through and sort of log all the engine numbers and chassis numbers and sort of go through and just make sure the basic things work, the brakes and the indicators and all that sort of stuff. And the Alfarrari passed with flying colours, and that's all good. So at the moment, because I'm going to be on club registration, it's been sort of posted away to the club. They've got to stamp it, send it back, and then that should come tomorrow, and then hopefully we'll get some plates on it. But before we do that, I've got a few things I need to touch up. On the drive down, I did notice that the dash is vibrating a lot. I need to see if I can sort of button up things with that. There are a lot of vibrations in this car. A lot of that is to do with the very firm engine mounts, which are polyurethane leaf spring bushings. I've got to try and order some rubber leaf spring bushings and see if I can swap them in. So hopefully they're a little bit softer, and they'll just let the engine move a little bit more and take a little bit of that vibration out. Being a flat plane crank engine, they do have low end vibration. It's sort of the that's the offset you have but you do have the benefit that it can rev really high, and like I said, this revs to 9,000 RPM. Did on the dyno, and it was still pulling and making power there, so it should be lots of fun when I actually get to properly drive it. Last time you were watching, I was working on the boot, so let's move back there and show you what I'm thinking about trimming it out and just finishing the boot fit out. All right, so last episode on the Alfarrari, I was in the boot here and I started making up this sort of aluminium structure, making up all of the framework, so I've got a nice, neat, trimmed boot. But the problem is I already am not a huge fan of this, this rear wall in particular. These side walls will actually be able to be removed, and they just sort of will slot in. There were some great suggestions to use magnets, and I'm actually going to be using that. But what I'm not a fan of at the moment is to take this wall out. The battery is here, and I need to remove basically both sides, the floor, and then remove this, and that's just too much effort. So I want to make a panel. I thought about having a hatch here, but then there would be a break and you'd see this sort of panel. It wouldn't look cohesive. So I want to come up with another method to have a removable rear panel that I can take out by itself and not have to take out everything else.
So to build the framework for fitting the panels into the boot, I start with cutting out some strips of sheet steel, slicing them on the guillotine, and then marking up sort of how long I want them. And then I'm just folding them into little 90-degree sections so that I can fit them along the back as the lower mounting point. Take the aluminium, and now that it's not going to be screwed in, I cut off the lower flange to start with. And now I put everything back in and screw in the lower mounting brackets.
Alright, so I've gone through and I've cut out some 90-degree bits that I've now fixed to the floor, and as you can see, I can do it with my base plate in. I've got my backing plate, and if I put that in, I've trimmed off the bottom, and now I can slide it in and just line up just right. I can set it up into place. So that is going to be much more removable once I get rid of these sides. I've got the bottom fixed now. I still need to do something with the top and the corners. So let's start measuring up and making up a bit of a framework that I can mount into the corners, and then I can have this panel easily removable.
So with the rear lower brackets in, I need to make up the vertical corner brackets, and it's quite difficult with a painted car and everything in there, but I sort of struggle away and sort of tack it together without catching the car on fire. And then the same again on the left.
Alright, that was a lot of work to make this look basically the same as it did, but there are some key differences. Now, this rear panel is just going to be magnetized in basically. So I'm going to have these panels here on the sides. I've got to put some pull tabs on them to make them easy to pull out, but these will just pull out. You have to pull out both sides, which will just be held on by these. You can see there, those little rare earth magnets. I'm going to glue them onto the back of those aluminium sheets, and then this piece will also be held by rare earth magnets, and just pull out like that. I have to pull out the sides because it won't be able to tilt forward into this space with the sides in, but I can get that out and then I can get to the battery. So it's three pieces. I no longer have to pull the floor out first. I can just pull out all three parts. So the next thing is I need to rivet on a couple of pieces of mild steel onto this edge here, because magnets are not going to stick to aluminium.
So it's back to the guillotine and cutting out some little thin strips of sheet steel and a couple of holes and a bit of primer before I rivet them onto the aluminium back part of the boot trim. And now it's a matter of marking where I need to place all of my magnets, and I start by mixing up some 5-minute epoxy to connect the magnets onto the back of these aluminium sheets.
Alright, so I went around and I used some 5-minute epoxy to glue on the magnets around the edge of this panel on both sides, so that hopefully I have a nice solid mounting point. And now it's time to trim them up. So I've got the carpet I'm going to do first. The carpet is going to go on the bottom, so let's get that out, do that, and then get some leather, and fingers crossed we can get this trimmed and get the boot finished up.
Alright, so I start with the carpet on the lower section, and I use the spray glue on both sides, trim it out, and it's a relatively simple piece. And then I move on to the rest of the panels, and I'm first covering them in a 5mm foam, which just gives a nice sort of padded feeling to the leather texture rather than just going the leather straight onto the aluminium. It also helps to hide any tiny little imperfections or dings or whatever in the aluminium to start with. And a lot of people ask what the spray glue is. It's extremely expensive, not sponsored. It's called Tensor Grip, and I've used lots of different things, and this stuff really does work, but it is very expensive for what it is. So the foam layer is relatively straightforward, and now I'm moving on to the leather. And first things first is I'm actually cutting out some pull straps, which I want to mount onto the aluminium pieces. I should have actually done this before I put the foam on, so I have to peel the foam back. So I can have the head of the rivet under the foam, because that's the smallest piece, and then mount the straps behind the piece of aluminium with a backing of a small little square of steel, just so that it actually has something so it won't pull through. And once that's on, then I can go through and start trimming in leather. And this is reasonably straightforward, but the corners are always a little bit of a challenge to make sure you can sort of pull the leather tight over the top and make a nice neat corner. But ultimately, most of it is just taking your time and going around and trimming it nice and neat, leaving the exposed steel on either side where the magnets can join on the side sections. So you can see here I leave a little tab on the very corner, and what I do is I pull that tab sort of 45 degrees over the tip of the corner and stretch the leather on that corner. It just makes a nicer corner.
I'm struggling today. It's the first sort of hot stint we've had. It's 32 degrees, and yeah, it's pretty sweltery inside the shed. It's probably a couple of degrees hotter than that, so it's yeah, it's keeping me toasty. I know it does get hotter later in the year, but it's warm enough. Now, I'm not liking the these magnets that I ended up gluing onto the back. They keep coming off. I think straight gluing them on is not the best option. What I actually want to do now is I'm going to go over these, and I'm going to rivet on some steel strips and then glue them to that. So at least then they're magnetized to the steel as well as glued on, because they don't stick to the aluminium. I possibly could have made these all out of steel, but I do like how light they are, and just a couple of strips riveted on will do the job. So let's start doing that.
So back to the guillotine, being very careful with my fingers and cutting out some very thin strips for the edges. For these I just peel back the foam and rivet them on. So now with the edge strips in place, it's time to cover them in leather, same as before, just taking my time going around and making sure all the corners are nice and neat.
All right, I am super happy with that result. That's exactly what I wanted. And now I have some pull tabs to just pull these side sections out, and they just clip back in again, if I can do it with one hand. And they just clip back in again and magnetically attach. This will probably, the wrinkles will come out with a little bit of heat, but that is looking really good. Same on this side, pull tab, just pull the tab and pull out the panel. I can still store some things in these sections in here. Obviously it needs to be soft things because this is the outside of the car, so I don't want anything that's going to dent the exterior of the car, but I can put things in there. I could actually build some cubby boxes in there, and I may actually do that in the future. Maybe make a built-in toolkit or something that goes in there, but for the time being, that just works really nicely. It's just a matter of popping the sides out and then popping the back out, and I've got access to the battery. So it's all accessible, and that's exactly what I was looking for. All right, so the next thing I need to tackle is something that a lot of you have noticed, and you've seen that these flex pipes on my exhaust are mangled. Basically, going in and out of my driveway when I had this much lower was not good for the exhaust, and it's mangled, really mangled these flexes, and I now have an exhaust leak. So that is not ideal, so I need to replace them. Now, I did try and look for alternatives. I did get one of these flex pipes online. I ordered it 2.5 inch, and then when it got here, I saw how much the restriction is inside, and yeah, it's not good. So I've gone back to this, so you can see, I'm not sure if that will show it accurately, but there is a very large restriction. It's about a 2-inch exhaust on the inside of this, whereas this stays 2.5 all the way through. So I'm going to use one of these. The ones I ordered are actually longer, so we'll see how that goes, but it's time to take the exhaust off, cut the old ones off, weld the new ones on, and hopefully get rid of my exhaust leak.
So I had to first start by removing the rear mufflers, and then I can remove the rest of the exhaust. So I roughly measure how long my new flexes need to be and mark them, and then I can cut out the old ones just so I keep the whole exhaust to roughly the same size. And of course I have to cut off the heat shields that I put on only a couple of weeks ago as well. Clean up the faces, aiming to get everything nice and clean and square. And then I go through and mount the exhaust back into place so I can get everything lined up exactly where it needs to go. Once I'm happy, I just add a few tacks to hold everything in place for the time being. And then I come back out to TIG everything up. And the more I watch this, the more I realise that TIG welding in shorts and t-shirt is not a great idea. As I'm sitting here with welder burnt arms and legs a few days later watching this, it's not a good idea. And once the flexes are on, the heat shields go back on as well.
All right, new flex hoses are on, and I just noticed I missed a little bit of weld there and a little bit under here, which is going to be a pain in the backside because I put the heat shield back on again. But anyway, that is sorted, and I just bashed my head. All right, that is back on, but now I do have an issue that was an issue already. The exhaust tips are no longer aligned nicely. I'm going to have to cut the last little piece and realign the exhaust tips. They did move. They've flexed over time to sort of change with once this is sort of heat cycled a little bit. So let's get them aligned again, and we can move on to something else. All right, so my plan of attack moving forward to straighten this exhaust, this one here currently needs to, it doesn't need to go up at all, it just needs to come sideways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it through here on the side so that I can bend it and tack it in place to make sure I get it straight. And as for this one here needs to be bent and go up this way. So I'm going to do the same, but on the tube, I'm going to cut it opposite to that through roughly like this where I've actually straightened it before, cut it through there, bend it up, and then I can re-weld it into place once I've got it nice and straight exactly where I want it.
So I found this method quite effective, just cutting most of the way through and then bending the pipe and then tacking it back into place, and I get them quite straight.
All right, that is looking a lot better. Now, it's not perfect, but it's looking pretty good. Yes, there are a couple of chips on the paint there. That's just how it works, and this looks like it's actually hit and actually dented the rear valance, but this car is going to be used. It's not a show car, it is a driver, and yeah, I think it's time to pull them off and weld them up properly.
So I fixed up that little bit I missed, and more welder burn incoming.
All right, and with a little tweak, I now have nice straight exhausts that are sitting in the right spot, so I'm happy with that, so we can move on to something else. All right, so one of the next things I need to do before I start driving this car, particularly in the rain, is to do something about this open area here. So basically there's a design flaw in these Alfas where this panel here is sort of a skin over the top of another panel inside. Even with these, which are the original sort of wheel arch block-off parts that had rubber trim around the edge, they would still get water and mud and things like that in here. It would get the dirt stuck in this little ledge in here, and then it will just rust out. It's just the design of the car. It's just how it works. I know back when I was first doing the car and talking to Tim at Zoo Autocraft, he's seen a lot of cars that look really pretty, and he's always said when people go, oh no, that bit's okay, you don't need to cut it off. He cuts it off, and if it's not rusty underneath, he'll do it for free, and he's never done a free one because they just all rust there. That's just the design of the car. So what I need to do is I need to try and make some sort of way to block this off, and I may actually just make some water relief holes here, and I'm just going to have to monitor it and maintain it and just make sure that it stays cleaned out and it doesn't get full of gunk, because that's just what these things do. There's lots of these old cars. The old Frankenholer is the same. They have the same sort of issues. It's common with these sort of things, so we just need to try and sort it out.
So I start with a piece of cardboard to get a rough idea of the notch I have to make for the washer bottle filler neck that I have hidden up underneath this guard. And I'm doing a bit of exploratory shape with the original piece now, but I can't reuse it because it's got rust holes all along the bottom edge of it. And then I use it as a template to copy it onto a piece of sheet steel that I sort of bent over the edge of the table to get it roughly in shape, and keep trimming until I get a piece that I'm relatively happy with. and it fits quite nicely, but there's actually a little gap in the bottom, and instead of starting again, I am just going to trim it off and weld the bottom last piece on. And once I was done, I painted it, and this is the day after, and I'm going through and actually using the original rubber that goes along the edge between this panel and the outer skin of the car. And it was stapled in, so I'm drilling through the staple holes and using staples the same way the factory did it.
All right, and that is sealed in nicely. So I reused the seal all the way around the edge, and it was originally stapled, so I just repeated that process. And stapled it in, and we have that boxed in, and that matches up with the other side of the car, which I'd done previously when I was doing this the build out here. So we have wheel arch liners. All right, and I have been running around all day. It's been quite annoying, but we've done it. We have plates for the Alfarrari, so let's bolt them on and I'll tell you about it.
So the front plate is very straightforward, but the rear plate I have to fit the plate lights like I used previously, and I did buy some more, but do you think I can find them right now? I can't, so there's only one that is working at this stage. I have to dig the other ones out later.
All right, yes, we finally have plates on the Alfarrari. It's been a very, very long time coming, but they are finally here. So basically, these classic vehicle plates are a thing in New South Wales. So we have historic and we have classic. Historic is for vehicles that are unmodified and as original as they came, and classic is for these modified vehicles. And on these plates, it costs about 5% of what it costs for a full registration, and I can drive it 60 days a year. So it's worth putting them on that. So the Ferrari is fantastic, but of course it had been sweltering all week, and now it is pouring down. It is absolutely horrible weather out there, and I don't think it's the time to take this out for its sort of maiden licensed voyage in an unknown car in the wet. Call me soft, but yeah, you'll have to wait for next week for that. So, all right, guys, that is it for this week. So I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in 2022, Ferrari introduced its Vision Gran Turismo concept car. According to the Vision GT's designer, Flavio Manzoni, it represents a futuristic design manifesto for Ferrari's road and racing cars. It is powered by Ferrari's V6 used in the 499 Le Mans hypercar, but is now de-restricted to produce 1,020 horsepower. This is combined with 3 electric motors, one at the front and 2 at the rear, to give a combined total output of 1,340 horsepower. Entry to the car's single seat is via the windscreen, which obviously also acts as a door. Ferrari claims that the Vision GT can lap the Fiorano racetrack in under 1 minute 10 seconds, which is almost 10 seconds faster than its current flagship, the SF90.
We have plates! We have plates on the Alfarrari. It is registered on the road, although just this last week it's also developed an issue that it is killing the battery and the battery is dead. I've tried to revive it a couple of times and it just keeps draining the battery with the isolation switch like disconnected. So I don't know what's going on. There must be a short in the switch or something. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, because disconnect the battery should mean it's disconnected. Anyway.
I think it falls under that mystery element of the magical element in cars, that just things happen.
It's all part of the fun.
The rich tapestry. Home built with Jeff.
So
speaking of a rich tapestry of Home built with Jeff, we want to support him, help him out, Patreon, see the videos daily, no ads, and of course leave your comments because he loves reading them.
Yes.
Yep. I think that's everything.
Yes. So keep an eye out next week, and hopefully I can actually do a little bit of a video with the Alfarrari driving on the road.
got to
That's
cross
what we want.
everything.
Yes. But it's registered, so that should be fine.
So it's a
And-
massive win.
Yes. All right, guys. See ya.
Hey guys. Hey guys. Hey guys. In 2022, Ferrari introduced its. Damn it. Hey guys. In 2020. Hey guys. In 2022, Ferrari introduced its Vision Gran Turismo touring car. Hey guys. In 2022, Ferrari introduced its Vision Grand Concept touring car.
No.